What double standard in society goes generally unnoticed? People are encouraged to reach out and ask for help when they're struggling with mental health, but they're still stigmatized if they have mental illness. Some of the people whom I knew, always going around advocating for mental health, were some of the first people to dismiss me when I developed depression. They posted all day on social media about mental health awareness, but then turned around and told me to man up, or just straight up yelled and swore at me. I would also say people are encouraged to reach out for help, but most mental health services are sorely lacking. In college, I remember all these materials encouraging students to access counseling services if needed. I tried to do so half a dozen times, and the wait list, the hoops you have to jump through, etc., just made the whole process disheartening and stifling. And eventually, I just gave up. I was trying to help an acquaintance of mine who is poor and has a lot of mental health issues. I tried reaching out on her behalf to a lot of the services that promote themselves as being available for her demographic. In the end, it all fell through in a way that was pretty similar to my experiences. In a progressive city like mine, there are tons of flyers you see around town, in buses, in the local media, and touted by government officials, for mental health and other social services that make it seem like all you have to do is reach out and ask. From my experience, these services are usually a complete train wreck, and actually being able to access them is near impossible. A long time ago, a former coworker passed away. My other former coworkers posted about it for a while after, mostly platitudes about if only we knew they were struggling and if anyone ever needs help, just reach out. I finally told one of them I thought the posts were interesting after reaching out many times to people I thought were good friends about my situation, only to have people stigmatize and low-key ridicule me when I did. Everyone knew I was on medical leave for mental health issues, even if they didn't know about what I did, yet no one reached out, and they mainly ignored me when I came back. This all happened nearly 20 years ago. All too often, I see people using the memory of a person's passing as a virtue signal when they can't be bothered to care about the people in their lives who are still struggling. It's so gross to me. I recently quit a job at a large statewide nonprofit where one of our three main focuses was mental health. I started having anxiety, and the only thing that was said was that I looked different. They were worried about me. Except my workload was still increasing, and my entire team quit, so I was doing it by myself. I asked for help multiple times. I created boundaries as to what hours I would work. I used to work from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. regularly and take on the work of other teams. As soon as I said I would only work 8 to 4, I still didn't. I would get up at 6 and start working and then shower really fast for like 10 minutes, to the point where it messed up my hair. They did not and do not care. I know many other people who left because of how bad things were. I was just dumb and didn't leave fast enough. I got told once they knew it was coming when I said I was overloaded and needed to take some time off. I quit with over 130 hours of PTO. I had a meeting with our interim senior director while my director was out on maternity leave, and I told her I needed support. The manager literally said nothing during the meeting. I said my mental health was suffering and even our department head was aware. Nope, nothing. I was told my role was defined and I should defer questions to my manager, who I hired. Already been doing that. She does not know the answers because she did not work on my team that was eliminated. I ended up sending a 2-line email saying I was tendering my resignation, and they asked me if I could leave in 2 days. Cool beans. I guess you didn't mean it when you said you were relying on me. They're hiring 2 people to fill my role now. People absolutely stigmatize mental illness. I have issues with anxiety and sometimes agoraphobia, but I've gone way better. I stopped having anxiety when I quit my job. That's all I have to say. Story 2. Everybody wants a dream partner, but very few people are willing to be the dream partner by working on themselves. One self-help book author claims that he found his dream woman by first sitting down and writing down everything he wanted her to be. Then he wrote down the qualities of the man she'd want, and then he worked to become that man. Apparently, he found someone to match all his criteria. I know quite a few people who found their dream partners. The thing is, you just don't hear about it because it works. No one complains about a good relationship. One of my good friends complained about how his wife doesn't want to be intimate with him. Apparently, it's only a couple of times a year, and I'm thinking to myself, it's because you're not even trying to be someone she wants to be intimate with. He drinks all the time, he's gone big, his hygiene isn't the best, he has about 20 projects in various stages of completion, from home projects to old cars, and he makes no effort to keep their house in decent shape. Like, no wonder she doesn't want to have some quality time. If she met him for the first time tonight, she wouldn't give him a minute of the day. My mom is also like this, and it's a yikes. Like, on the other hand, I feel bad because she's an older woman. She has kids. Me and my sister are adults, but still, and she's a bit plus-sized. So I get that it's definitely hard to find a guy. But on the other hand, she's not only a super misandrist, but she also constantly disrespects other people's boundaries. She's both super pushy and does stuff like constantly shows up late. Is one of those who constantly sticks her nose into your business and will try to forcefully help you when you didn't ask for it, cannot communicate her emotions properly. Does the classic, oh, I'm upset, but I won't tell you why. You should just know. Only supports you if it's something she thinks is good and isn't open to compromise. She's very much a this is who I am type of person. Any guy who is half decent wouldn't be friends with someone like that, let alone date or even marry. Don't ask for something that you can't dish out yourself. Story 3. The way we view emotion. If a man cries or shows fear, it is instantly taken as weakness while being socially accepted by women. If a woman shows anger or asserts dominance, it's taken badly, whereas those emotions are socially accepted by men. Also aging. Women aging equals bad, washed up, need to settle down. Men aging, good wisdom, getting better with age, embrace the gray. It's funny how in some households any visible emotion is perceived as manipulative. I've seen kids crying and their parents ask them, "Do you think that's going to help?" They're not crying to manipulate you, they're crying because they're tired and overwhelmed. And yes, they want something, but in the present context, they're having difficulty managing their reaction to not getting it. Which, by the way, sadness and frustration are entirely normal responses to not getting what you want, and tears as an expression of that aren't really hurting anyone. Would you prefer they express those emotions instead by yelling or throwing tantrums? We need to recognize and appreciate acceptable ways for all genders to express the full range of emotions in our shared culture. Otherwise, we're going to continue having people shove all their unacceptable emotions down, and a natural consequence of that expectation is people breaking down or becoming so disconnected they hurt others through their distance and absence. The aging thing is so enmeshed in how we view things. It's actually astonishing how much we have been socially conditioned as far as how we view aging men and women. So many people say, "Men age better than women. They're 50 and look way better." No, literally no. It's just how we've been conditioned to regard things. Gray hair on men equals silver fox, on women equals old. Wrinkles on men equals refined, manly. Wrinkles on women equals old. People will look at Pedro Pascal and say, "He's so dreamy." I agree, but I could literally Photoshop all of his exact wrinkles, which are not perceived as flaws at all, but just as additions to his handsomeness, and place them on, let's say, Zoe Kravitz, and people would say, "She looks old." Even if they still think she's hot, those same wrinkles would be subconsciously viewed as a detriment. It's really bizarre how society has tricked us like that. A lot of people don't realize how much the culture that surrounds us even affects how we view things and what we find to be attractive. Story 4. Being a morning person and getting up early to get a bunch of stuff done, then going to bed early is considered virtuous and mature. Being a night person and staying up late to get stuff done, then sleeping late the next day, is considered disorganized and lazy, even if you did the same amount of work and slept the same number of hours. I have colleagues who work from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. and people constantly chirp about how efficient they are. But when someone at my office asked if they could work from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. because that fit better with their body's energy cycle, they were mocked for wanting to oversleep like a kid, and the request was denied. The struggle is real and can be extremely frustrating, especially once you accept and work well with a night shift position. Daylighters have no issue with thinking you should easily skip sleep and stay awake to do daylight things even if you work that night. Imagine forcing the morning birds to stay up until 12 a.m. doing laundry. I promise you, they would not do this with a pleasant attitude. Somehow the expectation is for us night folk to just never sleep. At least that's how my family seems to see it. That's true in the workplace, but I've also had the opposite response in my social life. Being an early bird means I have to go to sleep early. To most people I know, going out starts at 8 or 9 p.m. Like that's usually my bedtime. Through my 20s, it was especially bad. I wanted to see my friends, so I pushed myself well past the point of being unhealthy. And even when I worked really hard to stay out until, say, midnight, I was still the grouch for wanting to leave so early. It's somewhat easier now that I'm in my 40s because other people have kids' sleep schedules to work around. But I still have friends I don't see as often as I'd like because our socializing circadian rhythms are so different. When it comes to early birds and night owls, the double standard is glaring but often overlooked. I get it. We're in the social media era. We all get it. If you're relating so far to the content, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more relatable stories coming your way. Story 5. I solely raised my daughter as a single father from the time she was a baby until she was almost in elementary school, when I married my wife. The number of people who have asked about my daughter's mother just to reply with, "Oh, she must have had PPD. There must be a mental illness involved, or maybe she'll come around in a few years," is absolutely staggering. Like, no, she just decided she wanted to party instead of being a mom to our child. There's no child support, no financial or emotional contribution, nothing. Hell, I couldn't even get a copy of my daughter's health insurance card when her old one expired because I wasn't on the paperwork, despite the fact that I was the one who filled out the paperwork for it at the hospital the day after she was born. It's infuriating. Knowing full well that had the roles been reversed and I'd have been the one to leave, I'd 100% instantly be considered useless. My wife's dad was also a single dad because her mom abandoned her at a McDonald's. Same thing. No child support or anything, refused to give him her birth certificate or social card, nothing. The main one that enraged her dad was random people at Walmart saying, "Oh, are you babysitting today?" and then laughing their bums off. Like, no, He was a single father with absolutely no support, working 24-hour shifts sometimes just to afford basic things like bread. She didn't realize how bad all the comments were until she was fostered for a bit. Oh, and undergarments. It took like 2 years for her to get one because she was short, so when her dad took her, it looked like a 30-year-old man was just looking at children's clothes, and everyone would stare at him like he was a creep. Oh, and bathrooms. A father taking his baby girl to the bathroom is a huge issue, but she's never once received any weird looks taking her son to the women's restroom. Story 6. The double standard between women, especially young girls, being fans of things and men being fans of things is evident. It's deemed somewhat normal and almost to be expected that men go absolutely insane over sports, especially things like football. The point is reached where during football games, the local police are usually on standby to deal with the fights that usually happen. This is just kind of seen as part of it and to be expected, and it's just people being passionate. On the other hand, if you get a group of girls getting a bit excited over a BTS concert or a Taylor Swift show, suddenly that's deemed weird and stupid. They get dragged for it. It's literally the same thing. The latter is also far less disruptive, yet it is the thing that is always seen in a bad light. It's not a new thing either. It goes back as far as the Beatles and Elvis, where it was just passed off as ridiculous hysteria while you've got a Brexit geezer going absolutely feral because Manchester United lost. It low-key angers me a lot that anything women and girls like is seen negatively, yet things like sports get a free pass. The funny thing about this is that there's a double standard built into the same double standard. There are things that men are allowed to be obsessive about and things that women are allowed to be obsessive about. Even with the eye-rolling that comes with the women's stuff, that's still culturally allowed. But if you flip the topic and you find a woman who is into sports or a man who is into Taylor Swift, a whole other set of double standards comes out. Women have to be only into sports because they're trying to impress a guy or their fandom is questioned. Men who are into Taylor Swift have their masculinity questioned or are said to be sacrificing something to get a girl. You can never win. Story 7. Live in an extrovert's world. In many Western cultures, being outgoing, sociable, and outspoken is often celebrated and encouraged. It's seen as the norm to want to chat, network, and be the life of the party. But when it comes to introverts who may crave quiet, solitude, or just less social interaction, the script flips. It's socially acceptable to nudge the quiet person in the room and say, "Why don't you talk more?" But imagine telling a chatty person, "Can you be quiet for a bit?" It would be considered rude. This double standard underscores a deeper societal bias towards extroversion. The noise and buzz of constant interaction are often valued more than the quiet, reflective spaces introverts thrive in. It's like we're saying one way of interacting with the world is better than the other, when in reality, both have their strengths and should be equally respected. In a world that can't stop talking, sometimes we forget the power of silence and introspection. After traveling to Japan, I realized how loud Americans are. You can hear them from across the city. But seriously, it also explains why there are so many grifters and scam artists in the US. Because if someone is outgoing and has a sales personality with charisma, our society automatically views that as a safe person to interact with and trust. I will say Japan is a country of introverts. That is why I enjoyed it so much, because I'm also an introvert. It was refreshing to get into restaurants and find them less noisy, with less chatter and lower-pitched voices, as opposed to the loud screaming that you typically hear in American restaurants and bars. Being talkative also invokes a sense of egocentrism, as a person is always craving attention by talking and being social. Some of the most talkative people can sometimes be hard to connect with, as they don't ask questions or listen. As an extrovert, I know full well when my introvert friends' social batteries run out, so I just leave them to their own devices and check on them from time to time. Story 8. If mom is out with her kid, she's being a parent. If dad is out with his, he's babysitting. I got the good old, "Why are you here?" question from a woman at a park a few days ago. Maybe I looked sketchy? I don't know. "Watching my kids," I replied. "Oh, sorry, did your wife need a break or something?" she asked. "No, I'm a single dad. I just like to make sure my kids enjoy themselves and have good quality social interactions. If I'm off work, we're either playing video games or playing at the park," I explained. "Oh, sorry, cute kids," she said. "Thanks, same to you," I replied. She later apologized, saying that sometimes she's seen guys with no kids there trying to talk with people, etc. As a dad, I appreciate the diligence, 100%. I don't know, it's hard not to feel like a piece of crap for doing my job as a parent. But in this day and age, man, I'm glad I can be a single father who can provide my kids with anything they want. But some people just see a dude on the bench and assume he's a creep. That lady apologized and said she was so sorry and how she felt so stupid for judging me and assuming. She said she will never do it again. She even gave me a number for a play date. Her kids were the same age. But damn, it makes me feel awful. Big ups to all the single fathers out there. And good on her. She apologized and learned from her mistake. Story 9. When a poor person is on welfare, stop leeching off taxpayer money, you moocher, get a job. When a poor person takes a minimum wage job, is still poor and still needs social services, Jobs like these are meant for students, not grown adults. If you're trying to make a living off a minimum wage job, you've made bad decisions that my tax dollars have to clean up. When a poor person takes a slightly better job as a telemarketer with basic benefits, people like you are scum. Pestering people in their homes, choosing to earn a living this way makes you an immoral person who deserves to be cursed out every time someone picks up their phone. You want people to stop cursing at you? Don't do this job. When a poor person goes to school to get qualified for a better job and incur 5 figures of debt because they're poor, well, that's just your own bad decisions. You choose to take on mountains of debt for a degree, no one forced you to do that. Higher education isn't an entitlement. You should have chosen a cheaper school, a shorter program, joined the army or gotten a job and done your studies part-time over the next 10 years. Don't take on an education you can't afford. Also, adults who live with mommy and daddy are pathetic. Get a job like the rest of us and start paying your own way in life. When a poor person literally passes away, why should my hard-earned money go towards someone else's healthcare? Story 10. Body hair. Men can rock an entire grass garden, everywhere from legs to facial hair. Women, on the other hand, face harsh judgment if they have hair anywhere but their scalp. They're immediately labeled as unclean, hippie, or a total embarrassment to mankind. I'm a woman who is tired of spending hundreds of dollars on razors, waxing, or laser hair removal. I get envious of my boyfriend in summer. Not a worry in the world wearing shorts with his legs showing. Well, I have to plan in advance if I want to wear shorts or dresses. While I'm blessed with lots of curly locks, I've had my fair share of humiliating experiences because of other body parts. These range from family instances, like when my mother decided when I was young to get my legs waxed because I needed to be more ladylike if I wanted to go to the beach, to encounters with friends. In high school, my desk mate used to look at my arm and say, "They're growing so long. Don't you think it's time to shave them?" I've even faced comments from random strangers on the bus whispering about my leg hair after skipping a day or two. While I appreciate others saying they don't mind and I'm happy for people who could grow it out without hearing mean comments, the reality where I live is quite different. Regardless of your gender, your body hair or lack thereof should never define you as a person. Aren't these the bitter truth? Sadly, the double standards we fail to notice are the ones that shape our society the most. But hey, our exploration of the double standards is far from over. Click on to the next video. What gender double standard infuriates you the most? And check out story 4. Even I'm annoyed. See you there.